Hey, everybody. We have a very special week with you. We're going to talk about surviving trauma. Yeah. In fact, if you find yourself in a traumatic situation, such as an active shooter situation, well, what are some of the things you should be thinking about? With us this week is police officer Troy Zeeman, his wife, Shannon Zeeman. They both survived the Las Vegas massacre, and they're so insightful. And I got to meet them. I'm doing a project with the Newport Beach Police Department. We're creating brain healthy officers, and I'm with them for 6 months and have just come to love them. Because, you know, no matter what the sort of chatter is about police officers, when you're in trouble, they're the first people you think about. And so from my standpoint, we have to protect their brains, get them to be as healthy as they can, because they virtually live nonstop in trauma. If you want to learn more about their work as things go along, S is in Sam, C is in Charlie, Z is in Zebra, activeshooter.com. Troy and Shannon founded the SC Zeeman training after surviving the Route 91 mass shooting, with a mission to provide knowledge and hope for survival in an active shooter event. They've been married for 18 years, and they're the proud parents of their 2 boys. Troy has been in law enforcement for over 23 years. Between 1999 and 2000, LAPD SWAT was tasked with creating the first active shooter response tactics. Troy was involved in training and the evolution of active shooter training since then. He has been awarded the California State Governor's Medal of Valor, Newport Beach Police Chief Citation, City of Newport Beach Medal of Valor, along with many other awards for his amazing service to the public. Shannon is a Baylor University graduate with a background of sales and marketing, but she's learned a lot through her 18 years of being the wife of someone in law enforcement. Shannon brings a civilian perspective of an active shooter event to our services. Now, I know Tana is so excited, to have them on.
No, first of all, I want to thank you for what you do. I have just huge respect for law enforcement, military, and I'm very happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us the story of being in Las Vegas. What happened?
So on October 1st, there was a 3-day concert, and we were there for 3 days. So the reason we went there, Shannon had breast cancer, and she had just finished up her chemotherapy. And we decided that it would be great if we celebrated her beating cancer. And it was also our anniversary that year. So Shannon found this 3-day concert in Las Vegas and said, hey, I think this was a great place to go. So we went there for 3 days, and it was a blast. It was a great place. I thought the venue was amazing. And then on the 3rd day, on the last singer, it was about 10 o'clock at night, and all we heard was gunfire and a crowd of 22,000 people screaming.
Did you know right away that it was gunfire? I mean, you would know, but I think the average person isn't sure.
Yeah, well, even police. I mean, I didn't know that the first barrage. I didn't know that it was gunfire, and there was. This is a concert. It's a country concert, with all kinds of military and police officers who shoot all kinds of weapons, who recover all kinds of weapons, and due to the fact that he was 1,000 feet away up 32 stories inside of a hotel room, the shots came out, and you kind of were. I was befuddled on it. I was like, I don't know what that is, but it seems weird. There's something.
So it didn't seem like part of the concert.
Yeah. And it really did seem like it's danger, but I just don't know what kind of danger yet. And so I was able to turn around and assess the situation. And while I was assessing, a second barrage came down, and that barrage, you could see the barrages were anywhere from 60 to 90 rounds.
Oh my gosh.
So you could actually see the rounds coming down range, and hitting people. So at that moment, I decided, we got to figure out a way to get out of here. So that was the moment of.
And were you in like an open space?
Yes, this is an open venue. So the shooter was in a sniper position. And there's no roof on this venue. Nothing in this venue is going to stop
to get cover.
the bullets that we're going to hit. So one of the things that military and police get trained on, we get trained on concealment and cover.
Right.
And these are kind of the things that we train civilians in our business to, and the difference between concealment and cover. Cover is when a bullet can be stopped by what you're hiding behind. And concealment is when you're not being seen by the suspect. He's just kind of guessing where you are and shooting at that area. Obviously gives you a better percentage of he's going to hit you or not if he can't see you. So we discussed that, and in this case, there was nothing in there that gave me cover. It was all concealment, so I was able to run back to a location about 40 feet away. There was a little hut that I could kind of hide behind and get into the shadows. And at that moment, luckily, Shannon and her friend met me there. I don't think it was planned, but it was just something that coincidentally we were in the same area at the same time and got to the same
So you weren't
place.
together when you first noticed it?
No.
So Troy was being the good husband, and he and my friend's husband were at the bar getting us drinks. So
No.
That's-
I don't drink Dr. Amen.
yeah, it was
Never
water.
drink at concerts.
It was getting us water. And so, but we weren't extremely far apart. The venue was laid out amazingly, where you went to the bars and things, and they were right in front of the stage, so we weren't far apart. I did not know, nor why would I ever know or think that it was someone was shooting at us. The first ones, he did just a few random shots, and I thought they were fireworks that were going to come off of the stage, because it was the
That's what I was
last singer.
thinking people thought.
Yeah, and then, but there was no reaction from anybody. So we all kept dancing. I just thought, oh, something went wrong with the fireworks or whatever. Then the first barrage came out, and it sounded to me as like the old firecrackers on a string, the boppity bop bop bop. So I was thinking, oh, who was stupid and brought in fireworks to let them off in the venue? So I was looking where I thought the sound was coming from. And again, the singer was still performing. No one in the audience was moving at all, because
it was dark, right?
Yeah, it was dark, and we were behind about 7,000 people, because we weren't in. There's like a grass area where everybody was standing. We were right behind it. And then I did think to myself, like, that's weird. But again, I thought it was just someone that brought in.
So your
something
brain
that was
can't
being
quite put it
stupid.
together.
Yeah. Why would I ever think someone? And it didn't. I mean, I've gone shooting before with Troy and stuff, and it didn't sound anything like I'd ever heard.
Up close.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the second barrage came out, and that was when the singer ran off the stage. And then we saw the people that were in front of us, they were starting to run back, because where we were was the way to get out of the main entrance and exit. So a lot of people, if your brain isn't familiar of where your emergency exits are or any other avenues that you could take, that's immediately where you're going to go. So again, I still thought it was someone being crazy and with fireworks. And so my intent was to get somewhere to keep my girlfriend and I protected from being trampled. So we wound up, how far was it? It was only a 10, 15 feet away from where I was. I mean, It wasn't far, the little corrugated building. And so we went straight there. And it just, luckily, that's where Troy went too. But again, I still didn't think we were under fire. It would have never dawned on me. And it wasn't until we met up and I realized that there was being shots fired.
So you reach concealment,
Yes.
but didn't you get shot?
Not yet.
Okay.
So at concealment, we still had to find a way to go. Now I knew in my knowledge, I knew that the shooter was towards the right side of the stage, and that the shooter was elevated, but I didn't know where the shooter was. So as through my training, I decided, okay, well, I have to assess before I make a decision. And again, these are things that we train through our training courses. Even though a decision might be 0.3 of a second, a decision is better than just aimlessly doing something.
Right.
So I turned around and decided that I had Shannon and 2 other friends with us. I had 4 people that I had to get out of a possible sniper situation. And with all the training that I've had in there, I can make a decision to get out of this venue. So as I turn around and I start looking, I realize that the suspect is actually outside the venue somewhere, and he's elevated towards that right side of the stage. So I have time now because there's a little bit of time gap that I have, only because he's not in the venue. If he was in the venue approaching, then there's less time. So because I had some time, I was able to turn around and tell them, hey, this is what we're going to do. But as I turned around and decided, hey, we're going to move to another location, there was like 20 to 40 people that now at our location looking at me for help. Okay. So now,
and they're looking at you for
Did
help.
they figure out you were a police officer, or just because you knew what you were doing?
Police officer, or
I think it was more of a feeling.
Yeah, like this guy knows what he's talking about.
Right. Like I wasn't panicking. I was looking at things. I was giving directions to her to give directions to other people. So they kind of felt, I think they felt like, oh, well, he's in charge of this situation right here. Let me just latch onto him and see what happens. Right. And then there were, after a couple of barrages, there were a few people who said, are you a cop? And I said, yes. And there was actually one guy who was standing right next to me. He had his wife pinned up face to face. She had her back on the corrugated metal, and he had her pinned up there. And he asked me, are you a cop? And I said, yep, I'm a cop. And then he says, don't worry, honey. He'll get us out of here. So
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I was trying to get my own wife out of here. So I said, okay, well, you know what? If these people are depending on me, then now I have to kick into a different gear of, well, I just can't leave them. You know, if they're willing to go, then I think I can get them out. And so, I had to turn back around, started assessing more. And at that point, now there's a lot of rounds that have come down range. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of carnage. So there were certain people that I couldn't help. But then there were certain people that were still running out. And one of them was our friend that was up towards the front of the stage. And she comes running out. And I yell at her and grab her and pull her into our group. Some other people had come down into our group, and I figured a way that we can move from one location to the other, but we still had time. So I was just preparing everybody to try to move them to an indoor bar. There was an indoor bar that was on the other side of the venue.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to stop this one, but we're going to go on to the next podcast. But one thought I had is, before you go to a big venue like this, is one of the tips, know the escape route. So when you go into a grocery store, when you go to like
I'm
Walmart,
one of those crazy people who's always
some of the
looking for
things,
exits.
is it to just be aware that there are crazy people out there. I've seen many of them. And just to begin to go, this is possible, not common, which is very important to understand.
Yes.
This is actually a very rare event. The news media makes us think it's like breaking news every day. Every day.
But it happens way more than it should.
So it's being aware. So when we come back, we're going to continue through this story of trauma. But also, our goal is to give you things to do. And if you want to learn more about their work, because this could be great for your family, it could be great for your business, for your organization. The website again is SC, as in cat, Zeeman. No, SCZ, activeshooter.com. Stay with us.
I will embrace my many strengths.
I will not be tormented by my past.
I will find the right balance.
I will be calm and courageous.
I will be free. I am not just bipolar.
I am not just autism.
I'm not just depression.
I'm not just ADD.
I am not just anxiety.
I am not just OCD.
I am not just PTSD.
Welcome back. I can't really say we're having so much fun, but it's
No, but it's
so
really interesting
important
and really important.
so interesting. And Shannon, you had an interesting comment because Troy's coming at this from his training. I mean, really,
Right.
literally decades of training, but you're not.
Correct. Yes. So when Troy's sitting here talking about he was assessing, he knew that the shooter was not in the venue. He didn't know where, but he knew he wasn't in the venue. And he's talking about how he knew that we had time and, we could stay where we were while he was figuring it out. He was, as far as I know, he was the only one in our group that knew the person was not in the venue. We were in there for 10 minutes and
It's a long time.
and I thought the person was in there. When Troy got shot in the leg, the shooter had changed his trajectory. And so it was actually starting to hit the container we were hiding behind. So I actually visually...
So at first it wasn't. It was going a different direction. So you were safe for a little while, and then all of a sudden he changed direction.
Yeah, we would get some errant rounds, and we got some shrapnel that hit us. I got hit on almost every barrage, but it was just shrapnel or pieces from the ground, or there'd be an errant round that maybe hit the building once that we were behind the corrugated metal. But very, very rare did the actual rounds come directly at us. And then once I got shot, that first barrage was right on us, and then subsequent barrages after that were, you could see the impact rounds hitting everywhere around us. So that it was just raining down on us at that point.
And are
That's
you seeing
crazy.
people get shot as well?
Not on those barrages, but on the other ones. The
First
ones
ones.
prior to that,
You
when
saw
I was
people going
assessing,
down?
yeah, because what they would do is a lot of people would lay down on the ground when they started hearing
Yeah, which is
gunfire.
not the right thing to do, right?
Not with a sniper,
No.
but
But
they
we thought
didn't
he
know.
was in the venue. So it is the right thing to do.
So get low is what you often hear.
Right.
Get down low.
Right,
But,
when
but he was up high.
right. So if you were
What
to
are you
take-
going to do?
Yeah, if you were to take a pencil and put it on a table and look at it through the height of your eye, that would be a sniper round, right? That would be a sniper position. If you lay the pencil down, how much more surface area do you have?
Right.
So those are kind of the things that I could see, but there were also people that were running from the front of the stage to the main exit where we came from, where we have to check in. And they were actually running through gunfire because they only knew of one area to go to.
Geez. And so that's the thing that I've always been taught is never go through the main exit where everyone else is going through. Unless you are certain you can get out, but if there's another way to go, you need to go.
Yeah. I mean, and in this case, he didn't really have the main exit covered. It was just angle. The angle of his rounds were coming in between the exit and where those people were standing. And so they had to run through I don't think they knew they were running through the bullets, but they were running through the
Yeah,
bullets
they were just
to get there.
confused, probably.
Yeah, they had no
So then walk us
Confusion.
through what happened so we can get to what do you do?
Well,
Okay.
and
in
when
that
did you get
situation?
shot? I'm still wanting to.
So
He got shot around the 5th barrage, and that was when we all thought the guy was walking towards us. So there was like a point where I thought I had a plan where we talk about having plans and stuff. I had a plan where I felt like Troy wouldn't leave people. He was trying to protect him. So I thought I was going to watch him get shot, how I was going to pull him out to safety. Like I was trying to do that. And then at another point was, where your fight or flight comes in. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. If this guy comes around the corner, I just fought for my life for the last year. He's not taking me out. Like I was ready to,
A little mama bear thing.
I probably wouldn't have won, but I was
because
ready
of-
to take
but
it
you'll fight
on.
anyways,
because
yeah.
of the breast cancer and having survived that, and it's like, no,
Yeah.
not this.
This is
going
not.
to-
Yeah, my family didn't go through what we just went through to then end it here. So I think that also helped me in being more of a partner to Troy and helping him get people out. But yeah, there was when he got shot, he told me that we needed to tell people to move over like 12 inches. And the people to my right were just ghosts.
They couldn't move.
They were
frozen.
They were frozen or overstimulated. I was looking at
push
them. There were so many, and they were sitting down. It was like I was yelling at them. People are getting shot. I need you to move, and they couldn't. And that's when I relayed to him. I'm like, they can't move. And
their
that's when we
basal
were gonna
ganglia.
run.
It's an area
shot-
deep
it's
in the
shock.
brain.
Yeah.
When it gets activated, some people, like police officers
I'm like
and
that too.
firefighters,
I freak out and-
they can go toward the fire.
Right.
People like me, and I was an infantry medic, but I didn't like it at all because my first response is to freeze.
Yeah.
And it used to make me feel bad until I realized, oh, that's just my brain.
Right.
And so if you could just move your pinky,
Yes.
then you can move. So it's like you don't have to move everything at once. Just move your pinky, and then you can get activated during trauma.
Right.
And that's amazing because that's something that we teach. I don't do it in the clinical way you do it, but I teach that because if you can make a decision, even if it's a hundredth of a second, that decision will break that freeze, and you can say, "Oh, I can do this," and then move to that, and then make another decision, and that will keep you from getting to that point where you're frozen. So we do train that. But one of the things that Shannon said was funny because when I got shot, she yelled at me, "Did you get shot?" And I said, "No."
And he really thought that I thought he didn't get shot by saying no.
Well, I don't want her to panic.
I was like, if I'm asking the question,
And you got shot.
might know.
You actually know.
Is that right?
I got shot in the right thigh.
On the right. Thing.
Yeah. So the bullet entered my thigh and broke up in there. I have like 13 pieces in my leg. And eventually the doctor said that they should remove those one by one in the future. So, but after that, what happened was...
And was it because, I'm sorry, I just have to know.
Yeah.
Was it because it came through the corrugated metal?
No, I was actually standing outside the corrugated metal.
Because?
That it was where I needed to be so that everybody else could get their cover.
He was standing right on the corner of the corrugated metal so that he could see the whole venue of what was happening. So
you're trying to assess the situation.
So I'm trying to assess, and then I couldn't push anybody else out of the way.
All right, so you get shot. Then what happens?
Then, because the angle of the round started coming differently, that's when I got shot. I told everybody we need to move over a little bit. People couldn't do that. Some of the people couldn't do that, but there was about 20 people who looked at me and said, "Okay, we can do stuff." It was a nonverbal communication that we had, but I could tell that these people were willing to do what I needed to do, what I needed to do to get them out. So I gave some more commands and said, "We're going to move to the House of Blues." It's a covered bar, just on the other side of the venue. So on the next barrage, we're going to move on the next reload. So another barrage came out. We saw a lot of impact rounds, a lot of things. We were taking a lot of rounds, and then once that barrage stopped, I said, "Go, go, go." We all ran to the House of Blues, got inside. At the point we got inside, there was more rounds coming down range, but no, I don't think at us. I don't think the bar got hit. I don't know, but I don't think it got hit.
But now you're in a building.
Now we're in a building, which was much safer because
So even though you've been shot,
Right.
you've been able to move your body.
Yes.
And help these people find shelter.
Right. And then, so while we were in there, I gave them, I told them, "Hold on for a second. Let me check the back." So I went out the back, checked that. It's a good escape route. And there was an emergency exit right behind there. So the gate had been opened. Everybody's flooding out there. I went back in, grabbed everybody and said, "Okay, let's get to the doorway." We got to the doorway. We made another assessment when rounds came down range. And then once those rounds stopped, then we moved out.
Why didn't you just stay in the bar? Because you still didn't know?
Well, I knew the guy was outside the venue, but that bar is a makeshift bar. It's not real walls. If he started targeting the bar, the rounds would still come through. Yeah. So I just decided we needed to get outside the venue.
Got it.
Shannon, what's going on in your head?
I really can't tell you.
Were you just sort of on autopilot?
Yeah, I was trying to follow anything that Troy told us. Again, I didn't understand why we were going in the bar because I thought that the person was still in the venue and he had us like hide behind a bar. So a lot of my things were in my head. Why are we doing this? Why do you have us sitting here? but I fully trusted him.
Right, 'cause you know
So
him.
then I wasn't verbally questioning any of it. I felt like I knew we needed to get him out because we needed to find a
Medical.
medic for him.
Right.
So it was the energy in that area. Troy talks a lot about the carnage. For him, that's what resonates with him. For me, it was the energy of the whole experience.
The people being so freaked out.
It was just so heightened. Your whole body, even every time I talk about it, even right now, I feel that whole vibration go through my body. And I think that was very consuming, is that you were just on autopilot, like you say, just
that adrenaline
trying
had to be insane
to survive and get out. And so by the time we got out of there, we every time we'd find a paramedic or something like that for Troy, there would be people that were so much more worse than he was. And so we'd just keep on moving. And of course, Troy being who he is,
he's being
we're not going
stoic
down the
and-
main areas. We are traversing alleys and we're going over fences, and because he is like, you can't go the masses, because if there were, because we
I agree.
still didn't know, right, if it was one person.
I would never go with the people.
So it was and by the time we went in to Hooters, got into Hooters, and somebody started screaming active shooter, it was a very high stress again, even though Troy was like, there's not an active shooter, you still have
it's that survival.
Yeah, it was still like,
Well,
what
it's,
if there
it's
is?
changing your nervous
It
system.
turns on and it doesn't just
It is
turn off.
changing your nervous system.
Yeah.
There's a fascinating book on why zebras don't get ulcers. And so, I mean, in a sense, you're having your zebra moment where the lion is chasing you and the lion wants you as lunch. But why zebras don't get ulcers is their nervous systems can go back quickly. But if you have a year where you've just been fighting cancer, that's not like a single episode where the lion's chasing you. It's like the frickin' lion is chasing you for a year.
Right.
And if you've been a police officer for 20 years, then your nervous system has been heightened with all of the things that you've seen and experienced, because this is not the first traumatic event that you'd seen or you'd experienced, right?
Right.
But it did give you an advantage.
Yes.
Oh, clearly a tactical advantage where, I mean, that's really the hero part, where you were able to save the lives of those people who were dependent on
How many
you.
of them may not have made it out?
And
Right.
so it's interesting. When we come back, I want to talk about, okay, well, what's the fallout for both of you personally? And then let's talk about how we met, and then you guys come into the clinic and the difference.
And I
that
want to
would make.
talk about strategies just a little bit.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that's important for people.
Great. Stay with us.
Welcome back. We are still here with our friends, Troy and Shannon Zeeman, and this is just such a topic near and dear to my heart. So I love what we're talking about. It's terrible what you went through. It's terrible that you were shot, but the number of people that you hopefully and probably got out safely, and you'll never know because they got out safely, fortunately. It's just such an important topic, and we want to hear the rest of your story, but we also want to talk about some strategies and what was the fallout? Like what happened afterwards? You know, the trauma doesn't just happen in the moment.
Right.
That's why we call it PTSD, right?
Right, yeah.
So what was the fallout?
So one of the things that we talk to managers at businesses and organizations is to try to get a peer support or what we call employee assistance program at my work. And we want those things already set up, because there might be most in the FBI studies of active shooters, most active shooters are over within 4 minutes. So we preach to the businesses and the organizations that 4 minutes of a very traumatic situation can last 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
And so how do we now treat people after the fact of you just survived this. Now, what do we do next? And so what happened was we got back. Shannon and I, my agency was very, very good. They were able to put Shannon and I both into counseling and peer support so that we can start talking about and start trying to process this traumatic event that we went through.
Immediately, we were in within a week
That's great.
of doing it, which was amazing, which we had a lot of friends that either their health insurance didn't cover it or they were going through the state of California, which the state of California has an amazing program for victims, but unfortunately they were so inundated because we had so many people there that we had a lot of friends that, and if they even got any help where they would go to a therapist or anything like that, it wasn't someone who had specialized in traumatic situations. So for us, we were extremely lucky at the get-go. And we went, like Troy said, 4 or 5 times, and we felt we were great. And we have other friends that didn't get to talk to anybody for 6 to 8 months, if that, and then weren't even dealing with someone.
It's a really important principle, though. The time to heal, start healing from trauma or grief is immediately.
Yes.
It's like the time to heal from the bullet wound to get
Wasn't
that
6 months
addressed
later.
and deal with it is immediately. Otherwise, it could cause an infection that takes your life. And the same thing is true with psychological trauma, which is really physical trauma, as we could actually see in your brains even later.
And I want to applaud you because I know maybe it's a misconception, but there's this conception that police officers are too stoic and they're not going to go to therapy. They're not going to go get it treated because it is an admission of something that's wrong, when in fact it's the opposite. It's an admission of strength. But
I think that through my years of service, we realized that not only it's hard to be vulnerable in our job, and to be able to say that you're vulnerable and you need help is a difficult thing for law enforcement anywhere. And so that's why I think over the years, agencies and cities have really come to an understanding that brain health, like Dr. Amen said, is just as important as me going to the active shooter training and learning how to deal with it. Right. So and there are still officers out there, it still takes them a long time to get through this stuff. I'm very lucky that I don't feel like I have to do that. I can go right away. And that's just it's been a great thing over the years to have that backing for employee assistance programs.
And how much more effective are officers going to be if they're not bogged down with all of that, the weight of those situations, like what you went through? And if you're not bogged down with that emotionally and the trauma of that, and you've learned how to release that by going and getting help, you're going to be more effective as an officer.
Right. And one thing I learned from coming to Dr. Amen is that there's like if it's a scale of 0 to 10, I can't control if I don't get all this help, mental help. I can't control that 5 or 6 or 7 number. It goes 0 to 10.
Yeah,
so even if I'm dealing with the public and the public is not necessarily appearing to be a threat, I might just believe it's a threat and it's a 10. I can't even say it's a threat as a 5.
It's on off.
It's on off. Yeah. And so going through the therapy and going through all the stuff that I've gone through, it helps me even deal with the public in a much better way, in understanding my emotions and how I can control that on off switch instead of just being 0 to 10. I can go to a 5 or a 4 or a 3 or a 7.
So you can assess
because when you go to 0 to
appropriately.
10, your brain drops in activity,
Right.
because all of
That
it
adrenaline.
is threat mode. And what we discovered through our imaging work is when people get to that 10, where it's terror, their frontal lobes drop. So they're making
That's
instinctual decisions, not
So it's
thoughtful
more primal.
decisions.
Yeah. And what we do, and Dr. Amen knows this, but what we do as law enforcement and military is that we get trained for the worst of the worst. And we get trained. We do that training over and over again. So we react. So if I can only go 0 to 10 and react, then how do I ever make a thought when it's maybe not a 10 threat? It's just an 8 threat. So these types of therapy and,
super important.
yeah, the behavioral science behind it is amazing. It's amazing. And so we talk a lot about this in our training too, of how I've gone through a number of ambushes and then Las Vegas and then dealing with people who are the victims of this or the families of this. And it's a big thing. And it helps a lot to be able to control that 0 to 10 range.
You know, I practice martial arts and I love it. And one of the things they teach you is avoidance. It's awareness and avoidance, right? You stay out of a fight, you can't win.
Right.
As best you can.
Yeah,
I mean, you only fight if there's no other choice.
Absolutely.
So just that philosophy, I think, is really important. I actually think it's an important philosophy for health. So you went through a battle with your health. We talk about being a warrior for that same reason.
Right.
Avoidance, awareness, do whatever you can to prevent. And when you can't, then you have to fight. But it's so interesting. We were talking off camera about strategies, and like he gets all annoyed with me sometimes because we'll go places and I'm like, no, we can't sit there. We can't sit. And I'm always looking, but you don't know where something could come from. So it's like, I need to sit between the exits because I don't know which. He's like, what is the matter with you? But what are some rational strategies? He thinks I'm irrational with my strategies, but
Shannon has been taking me to Stagecoach for like 6 years before 2017.
We couldn't go in 2017 because I was having
Stagecoach
chemo.
is a music festival.
Stagecoach is a music festival, just like Las Vegas festival. It's a 3-day
big
festival.
Outdoor. It's
Big
a little like
outdoor.
Coachella.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Maybe
so
not quite as crazy.
I would go there and I would walk the actual perimeter of the venue
I like
and
that.
look at all of the first aid areas.
Of course
look at,
you do.
Look at all
I
the
do.
uniforms.
Yes. I'm a trauma nurse.
I would look for the law enforcement, the security. I would look for the
I like
emergency
that.
exits. And so I can't memorize it all, but I
But you have a
know,
sense.
yes. And I'm aware of the venue and how it's laid out. So if an emergency were to happen, then I know that I would be safe going left instead of right. If my only option is to go right because that's all I know and the danger is right, I'm still going to go right. So we're teaching people, if you are aware,
Because we're a
of your
little like
scenario-
cattle. We're a little like sheep that way. We follow that instinct. We follow the crowd. But if you are thinking about it in advance, if you're trained, like you're saying, you will have a plan.
Yes.
You will do something different.
Yes. Even though you're not paranoid about it and you're not making a plan right there, it's just in your mind that you know that an exit is right around the building.
Yeah.
And if you can't see around the building, then if a threat happens, you won't be able to go around the building and check if there's an emergency. You're just going to go, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. I know that the emergency exit's that way. I'm going to run to that way. So that's kind of what we try to teach too.
And we
So
talk
that's
about
like brain warriors. That's what we call our tribe.
Preparation,
brain warriors,
awareness, avoidance.
is that they're aware
Yes.
and they're prepared.
Right. Exactly.
right. You don't have to be, what's my word? The word's not crazy, but
Paranoid.
Paranoid. Thank you. I'm like, you
See,
don't
I
have
call
to
it
be
prepared.
Everybody calls
He
it their
calls
own-
me paranoid. I call me prepared.
Everybody has their own word for it, right? But like, we would always make fun of Troy when we would go to all these venues because
Bet you don't know.
no, we kind of took it back, But it was, but he was kind of like Uber doing it over the top a little bit. And it was when we were at Route 91, my girlfriend had actually said, Troy, we're so proud of you. You're relaxing a little bit.
will
You're
never
getting
say that
more
again."
into, the venue. And so he says it's her fault because, she said that.
I relaxed, so I got shot.
Yeah.
No, not really. Not really.
But we talk about this like it should be even when you go into the grocery store, you should be aware of where your other options are because you just don't want that single, exit. When you go to work, you shouldn't always go the exact same door in and out, the exact same stairs in and out. You should know all your different options every single time. So like you guys are saying, be aware, have a plan, know what's going around, but it's like we all know if you're not training your brain, you're not going to remember it. So if you do it one time and then you never do it again,
Right.
you're
You won't
gonna
remember.
forget it.
So when we met at the police station in Newport Beach, I was there meeting with Chief Lewis about our program. And he's like, oh, I have to introduce you to Officer Zeeman. And he told me what you went through. And then we talked.
Yes.
One of my thoughts is, oh, you should, I'm like, and then you told me about Shannon and the chemotherapy. And I'm like, oh, we should look at your brains. Right. I mean, that's just what I do. It's like, oh, we should look at your brains. And then you came.
Yes.
What was that like?
I thought it was great. I've never really heard of your work. I didn't know that you could scan the brain the way you do. And then when Shannon and I came here and you showed me some of the stuff that you did, it was amazing. And it was something that, I felt really would help me a lot more than just going to a normal counselor and talking on the couch and saying, yeah, these are the things that I do. I've been doing that for 20 years and I think it has helped. But when I was able to see my actual brain and look at it and you say, these are the points that we can work on and we can work on specific things. One of the things that you've said in the past, was with a physical injury, we can see it. And with that physical injury, we treat that physical injury. If I have a broken arm, I'm not going to treat both of my arms. So when you talk about that kind of stuff, it resonated so much because I was able to say, well, we can focus on this PTSD or this trauma. And instead of trying to look through the whole brain by
Kitchen
just
sink.
voices.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it's been amazing. You guys gave me a plan. I've stuck to that plan and I went through EMDR. And EMDR was an eye opener. I had no idea without you guys telling me it was there. I didn't even know it was there. It is unbelievable. I went through 4 treatments and I've gotten past the PTSD in Route 91, and we're working on more stuff through my job and the history that I've had. But it only took 4 times to do that with the vitamins you've given me and the breaths and the yoga. I know I do yoga, but it's great. Though.
No, it's great.
I love yoga.
So one of the things, so in both of your scans, we saw this diamond pattern where your emotional brain is activated. I think, Shannon, for you, it was like, my memory's not what it was. And you thought
But it makes
was
sense.
the chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And when we saw the trauma pattern, well, when you've been emotionally traumatized by going through cancer,
Yeah.
so many people do, like that's totally normal, that it can actually steal your memory because of chronic stress associated. So some brains after chemotherapy look terribly toxic because they're poisoning you, right? To poison the cancer. But your brain didn't look terribly toxic, which is good news, but the emotional trauma was clearly still there, and treating that can really help your memory come back. And just know that it's okay. I don't have dementia. I'm not headed to the dark place.
Right.
Can be really helpful.
Oh, yeah.
So talk about your experience a bit.
Well, so I would have to say that I was completely shocked of what you guys showed me in my brains and in my brain. That I really thought, like you were saying, it was going to be the toxins that they had put in my body, and we were going to see on your scan of more do we say the outside of my brain? I thought that was just going to be demolished. I never even contemplated the aspect of like
Most people don't.
the emotionality of what I was going through. I was in a really dark place. And I just thought it was something that I just needed to keep my head
Suck it up.
focused and go. From the moment I got diagnosed as with breast cancer, I was going to be a warrior for this, and I was going to kick its butt, and then I was going to help everybody else in its path do the same.
And you may have done that, but it still takes a toll.
Correct. But I never even thought to look at myself for that. It was always just like, oh, well, we're going to take it and I'm going to go help other people. And then when we were in the Route 91 shooting, it was the same kind of thing. We came back, we did 4 or 5 sessions of therapy. And then it was like, okay, well, we're just going to be here to help everyone else get through it. And it was right around when it was getting close to the anniversary of Route 91 for the 2 years. And then right after it is my anniversary for my breast cancer survivor. I started really getting in a dark place and I had no clue. And just coincidentally or magically or
If you believe in
as
coincidence.
God leads you where you need to go, Troy meets Dr. Amen and we decide, okay, let's scan our brains. And when they flipped over into like, it was, what do you think you're going to see on the emotional side? Because they were like, oh, that your brain doesn't look as bad as we thought. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, what is wrong with me?
Right.
And when he flipped it, and we had already been there with Troy, and I knew the diamond formation was trauma. And I saw how much trauma I had. I just completely started crying. It was an answer that I never knew was there.
So you knew it was there, but you didn't know what it was.
I didn't know what it was. And as soon as
And
they
that's why
said,
I love the imaging work we do,
Yeah.
because it uncovers things that people don't know are there. Because if you don't look, how the heck would you ever know? All right, when we come back, so many things. So we're going to try and be as practical as we can. Before you're in a situation, what are the things to do during? And then be brave, like Troy and Shannon and Tana. If you've had trauma in your past, there are tools to help you.
Yeah.
Stay with us. Welcome back. We are having a lot of fun with our friends Troy and Shannon
as you can, talking
Zeeman.
about
If you
terrible
want to
things.
know more about their work for your family, for your business, for your school, for your church, you can go to SC activeshooter.com. And you can learn all about them and their work and hire them for your organization. You can just see how articulate and wonderful human beings they are. And, as I'm listening to this, and you're like, I didn't really expect to see trauma.
Yeah.
I think oncologists and a lot of physicians don't really grasp how traumatic being in the fight for cancer really is. But it's not just that. It's the fight for cancer. It's the
Worry about
Route
your-
91, massacre that you were able to survive. But it's also being the wife of a police officer who's experienced a lot of trauma. But if you love him, and it seems like you do, that every day you worry about, well, what's going to happen today?
Yes.
And that's sort of, it's the zebra is like the trauma happens once and then it's done and their nervous system goes back to normal, but not when you're in it day after day, year after year.
Yeah, I actually wanted to touch on the first responder bit. So when I met Daniel, he scanned me 2 weeks after I met him, and never heard that line before that he wanted to see my brain. But but it was really interesting because I have the diamond pattern. And so he started questioning me about my past. And it didn't occur to me at the time. I was a level A trauma unit at Loma Linda where the helicopters fly in.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about it. I'm like, I don't think it's my past as much as it is, honestly. I mean, it probably was, and I was just in denial. But I honestly, the thing that had been so on my mind for the prior years, I don't know if police officers go through this. Maybe they don't because they're men. Maybe they handle it differently. I remember just feeling sick every day I would go on that unit for the first few months. And physically ill because I didn't know how to process what I was seeing. Moms on the floor screaming as their, gunshot wound to the chest, gunshot wound to the head, their kid walking in the wrong place at the wrong time. That trauma, I think that's what actually was building up. I think that's what he was seeing more than anything. So first responders, you see it before I got to see it.
Right.
So it's hard.
So we see the carnage on a daily basis.
Right.
Especially when I got on the department when I was 21. I did nothing but soccer. That's all I did, soccer, and then became a cop. And I worked in South Central in LA for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's every day. And it's tough to not only see the carnage and the trauma there, but you have to deal with it. And I think that there's a lot that goes behind research that shows that officers are dealing with trauma constantly, and that's why we're getting high suicide rates.
Right.
And
Double the population. I mean, double.
That's so sad.
Now,
That's pretty good. That's high.
It's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. And during your training to be a police officer, how much training did you get on, well, how do I deal with this psychologically?
Right.
How do I deal with my brain?
Right.
When my brain is exposed to
and I got
this
hired in
stress.
the 90s, so it wasn't as important
Right.
as it is nowadays. I think we do a lot better job doing that, but it still is a practice and very common that officers, it's hard for us to be that vulnerable person to go get help. And I think that's one of the things that we deal with as law enforcement everywhere is not only are we seeing the trauma and we're trying to be empathetic and we're trying to be compassionate, but then people don't understand where we come from. And you can't imagine the things that we do.
Nope.
And because of that, you see an officer do something and you're like, well, I wouldn't have done that. And then you immediately go to, well, he's a bad dude.
Right.
And then now not only are we being empathetic and compassionate and trying to go out there and putting our families on the line. Okay, hold on. On the line. But we are also being told we're bad people.
Right.
And that's a hard thing.
It's so unfair.
Not are they at their work necessarily, or like some people telling them they're bad people or them concerned
No, it's society.
about it's all the time.
Right.
He's off duty and the news comes on and that's a trigger immediately because there's a video of
they're not
police
showing the other
officer.
side.
Right.
They're not showing
Right.
the whole video. They're not showing, and then it immediately it's that jump into, you know, this person is bad because I wouldn't have done it. And so when he's at home relaxing, these situations are happening on social media. They're happening, and you know, Troy chose to be a police officer because he wanted to protect and serve. That's what he's always wanted to do. And it kills him that he can't do the job that he always wanted to do because he's always having to look over his back.
Yeah, no, that's
So when
it's
I
tragic.
did a ride along, preparing for, you know, my brain health with the police department, I asked the young officer I was with, what's his biggest worry? And it's just what you guys are talking about. It's, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm going to get sued.
Public
I could end up
perception.
in jail when I'm always trying to do the right thing. And, you know, with social media, I say, you know, every idiot has a voice. And unfortunately,
cowards.
the news goes to what gets the most clicks.
Yes.
And what gets the most clicks is conflict.
Yes.
And so it distorts the reality of the situation. And so that's why, for me, I don't read the comments, you know, and some of them are awesome and some of them are horrible. And I tell all the young stars I see, it's like, don't read the comments because they're going to poison your mind, and they're not real.
Right.
They're not real.
Yeah, it's this was an interesting conversation I had with one of my nieces. She grew up in a lot of trauma without getting into that story. We were driving one day and she said something about a cop. And I'm like, I was a little shocked. And I'm like, where did that come from? Because she's young. I'm like, where do you think that feeling came from? Why do you have that perception of police officers? And she was quiet for a minute. She's a really smart kid, but she was quiet for a minute. And she goes, because my first memories of cops were bad. And I said, why? And she said, because I remember being in the back of a car with my dad. And I'm like, okay, so now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So your perception of police officers is related to your dad. I said, how many times has your dad been arrested? And she stopped. And I said, so your perception of a police officer is based on someone else breaking the law repeatedly. It's not based on your own experience with them.
Right.
And so when I was growing up, every time I saw a cop, I felt safer because I never felt safe otherwise. So I'm like, isn't it interesting how your perception can be skewed by your environment growing up?
Yes.
And it's really important that we start pointing this out to our kids because they go through life adopting these ideas that aren't even theirs.
Right.
They're not even their ideas.
So let's summarize some of the things that we've learned. If you've been in a traumatic situation, the sooner you get help, the better. The scans can really help because it can uncover things you may not know that are there. Whatever venue you're in, if you're in a public venue, just start paying attention that where
Exits.
are the exits in case someone goes crazy.
I take a first aid kit everywhere I
Right.
go.
And, you know,
Even at
it
your-
may never happen in your life, and it may only happen once or twice, but it's just a good idea to be prepared and to be aware. What are some of the other things you teach people that you think are just super helpful?
We actually teach run, hide, fight.
Yeah.
It's a Department of Homeland Security mantra that they put out there, and we teach how to actually run in an event such as this, and we teach how to actually hide in an event such as this, and then we teach that last resort of how to actually fight in an event like this. And some of that fighting doesn't mean you have to be physical. You're still fighting through your emotions. You're still fighting through the physiological effects that you're going through. And sometimes you have to fight through injury, but you can make it. And one of the things that we teach everybody, and we want everybody to know, is that we have grown up knowing that if you cut your finger, you have to go immediately to the hospital and get some stitches. But I can tell you that your body is unbelievably resilient to damage. You can take immense amount of damage and still be able to save yourself or others.
You don't shut down.
Yes.
Don't give up.
So don't think just because I have an injury or I got shot that I have to give up. I have to continue to go. Obviously, there are a couple of places in your body that if you take a bullet to, you're probably not going to be able to walk out of there. But just because you get injured, we talk about the injuries that happened at Las Vegas. We talk about the injuries that I've seen on duty in LA, and how people have fought through those injuries and done the things they did. One of the things is just like we talked about before was the officers. Some people say, why does it take 5 officers to take somebody down? Well, I can tell you that unless we're trying to, put them to sleep in a bad way, it's hard to resist. It's hard to hold down one adult person. Male,
Especially
female,
if they're on drugs.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
Their
Your bodies are
adrenaline is
amazing.
surging too.
And
Yes.
a show of force helps to calm people down. I mean, I know that as a psychiatrist, if somebody on the ward becomes aggressive, the more people you can get to help, the calmer that person becomes.
Right.
Right.
And the less counterintuitive.
Where do they run?
And-
Do they run away from it? Is there a strategy to
Yes.
running?
Our strategy is to assess, make a plan where you are going to run to. It's a short run. It's not, I'm going to run to Angel Stadium.
Right.
But it's a short plan. I think that I can go out the door. Once you get out the door, you're going to reassess, and then you're going to run again. Whatever that plan is. If my plan is to go to the front door, then you only run to that front door and then reassess. You don't just run through the door and then just keep running aimlessly. One of the things that happened at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England was that, a person goes into the concert. Detonates, and then as they run out, another gunman is outside. So if they made the plan to run to the door, they could have reassessed that before running into the next gunman. So that's kind of the things that we talk about.
I think one of the most interesting things to me that I've heard Troy talk about, because it was, I'm educated by listening to him talk too, is when we do the site walkthroughs. So we can walk through your building, a facility like a grocery store or your church or anything. Troy actually shows people all of the deficiencies that the active shooter has and all the advantages as a civilian that we have. And we're just not trained that way.
We wouldn't see it.
We think that someone has a gun, they have all the advantages, and we're just sitting ducks and we have nothing to do. Excuse me. And that is, I think, one of the biggest takeaways. Troy will show you the safest walls to hide on. Troy will show you, like, if the person was, coming towards you, how you can utilize he loves the 3-hole punch to talk about, the old 3-hole, heavy 3-hole punch. So it's extremely interesting to see how he does that. It shows you, you're going to run. You don't want to run in a straight line because that's an easy target. So those are all different things that, it's very empowering to know that we actually have more power than they do.
I agree. And that's one of the reasons I like to train so much. It's not because I think that I'm tough. It's because I feel safer.
Yes.
I feel safer when I'm trained. The more knowledge I have, the safer I feel. Maybe that's a misconception, but at least I have something. It's after being attacked when I was 15, you either go into I went into victim mode for about a week, and I went, no, this isn't okay. I don't like this. Why is it my fault that some crazy guy grabbed me on the street? And so I flipped that switch, and maybe I still, like you said earlier, maybe if I fought, I wouldn't win, but at least I'm going to fight.
Right.
And that training empowers you to feel like you can do something.
Yeah.
Even if it's get away.
Absolutely.
Usually if it's get away.
Well, I know with my job, we see a lot of the suspects that we take into custody. And one of the things that mentally defeats them is if we can make them powerless.
Yeah.
So if we can make them powerless, they are defeated and they don't resist either physically or verbally. But if they feel empowered, they will resist more physically or verbally.
Right.
And so if we use the strategies of the more people that get there, maybe we can defeat them mentally real quick
Right.
and make them feel like they don't have control. So I use that in our training to say, if you have control, you are going to be better off.
That's important. I want to actually just touch on that again. So one of the reasons so many officers show up is to diffuse it quickly.
Yes.
So it's not to show this excessive force. It's really in hope of not showing any force.
So our research has found over the years is that if I fight with 5 officers, I'm less likely to get injured than if I fight with 1.
Because you're more likely to get shot.
Or that one officer is going to try to do everything he can to knock
right,
you out.
Right.
Because he
he's
doesn't want to
scared.
die.
Right.
We've seen over the years that one punch can knock an officer out and then the person gets the gun and kills the
Right.
officer.
Right.
I've had that 3 times attempts on my life to hit me and get my gun. There is a tactic that bad people use, and they train this in prisons. And because of that,
It's good to know.
right, we watch it on video. So, I mean, these are things that the public doesn't understand. I understand we can't train the public on everything we know, but if you are fighting one officer, the only thing going through their mind is you're going to get my gun and kill me.
Right.
If you're not fighting 5, we have more control. We feel safer with my partner there. I can hold your arms down and he can hold your legs, or she can grab your head and shoulders and hold and pin you down, and then I can handcuff you.
Right. And so all of this looks bad on video.
Yes.
But it's actually safer.
It's very much safer. Research shows that people are less likely to get the injuries that they would if they had 1 or 2 officers
Interesting.
fighting them.
Well, I just want to say, we have to
Such-
stop,
such
but
a
there's
great-
so much
yeah.
to do. I am so grateful you're both our friends, and I'm grateful for what both of you do to serve
Yes, thank you.
other people. That's why I just love the opportunity to work with the police
Mm-hmm.
that we do. I'm just grateful for you. And
Well,
to
thank
learn
you.
more about their work, SC is in cat, Z is in zebra, SCZ, activeshooter.com, and you can communicate with them. And I just think what they're doing is amazing, and it fits our Brain
Yeah.
Warriors Way community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very
you.
much.
If you're enjoying the Brain Warriors Way podcast, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always know when there's a new episode. And while you're at it, feel free to give us a review or 5-star rating, as that helps others find the podcast.
If you're considering coming to Amen Clinics or trying some of the brain healthy supplements from BrainMD, you can use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com, or a 10% discount on all supplements at brainmdhealth.com. For more information, give us a call at 855-978-1363.